Hi folks, the Filipina P here, and once again, it's time for your favorite segment, the mailbag video. Even though I'm on vacation, the emails keep pouring in, and today we've got some good ones. A man who's not getting the attention he was hoping for when he looks online. A guy who's Filipina lives with a horrible secret, and a man who believes his wife's adorable new baby might not be his. So the first email of the day comes from Alex in Pennsylvania. Alex writes, Hi there, P. I'm hoping you can tell me what I'm doing wrong because I've been at this online dating thing for over a year now and it's just not working for me. I get plenty of responses to my profile, but like you warned, they're mostly just scammers and women wanting money. I do come across a few good ones, but once we start chatting, they usually lose interest and just drift away after a few weeks. At first, it kind of hurt my feelings, like there was something wrong with me. But I'm pretty sure it's just some kind of misunderstanding, so let me explain the situation. I started watching your videos during the pandemic, and I took an interest in the Philippines, and yes, in Filipinas. I'm 58, and I still have a few years left till retirement, so I'm using this time to learn all I can and set things up for my eventual escape. Like you always advise, I also plan to take a vacation there for several months, maybe next year, but I haven't been able to yet because of work. So here's how it usually goes online. If they contact me first, they're usually scammers, and within just a few sentences, they either tell me they need money or they try to get me to go on another site for some adult stuff. But even when things seem to be going well, it doesn't last, even though I'm doing everything you said to do. I'm being completely honest about my long range plans to retire there. And no, I'm not sending anyone any money. I keep the conversation light and easy to understand, and I'm always polite. But the responses seem to dry up after a few weeks, and then I stop hearing from them at all. Unless I'm the most boring person on the planet and just don't know it, can you tell me where I'm going wrong? Okay, Alex. Well, I appreciate you taking my advice about not sending any money and being honest about your intentions. So, let me see if I can figure out what's going on, okay? Now, you didn't send me your profile or your picture, but unless you have some really bizarre hairstyle or you listed your favorite hobby as embalming, those probably aren't the problem. If I had to guess, I'd say the women you're chatting with don't see much of an upside to investing their time with you, and this might be why. Imagine if you said you were considering buying a new house and you went online and saw a few listings that interested you, so you called a real estate agent to set up some showings. But when you told them you wouldn't be buying a home for a few years, they suddenly stopped returning your calls. So yeah, it's kind of like that. Filipinos think in dog years. So even though you guys can plan things, 7 years out, we can't conceive of anything more than 12 months away. Telling a Filipina that you might retire here in a few years just sounds like blah, blah, blah to most of us. Because we've heard it all before from guys who make a lot of promises but never show up. If we only talk to you, there's a good chance we'll waste precious years of our youth waiting for you to come. And we all know how fast a person's plans can change. We also know that a lot of guys are actually married and have absolutely no intention of ever visiting the Philippines. They're just sitting at home, lonely and bored, and looking to fantasize about what might have been. In fact, I did an interview one time where I asked Filipinas what they looked for in a man's profile, and one of the first things they wanted to see was that the guy had plans to visit soon. Now that's the opposite of a scammer, who'd rather find a guy who's not gonna come anytime soon. They have no intention of meeting you anyway, so they can scam multiple guys at once for long periods of time. But as soon as you tell a Filipina you're not planning on coming for at least a year, you take away their incentive to spend time getting to know you, or at least to take you seriously as an exclusive love interest. Now, of course, this isn't true of all the women online, but most of the Filipinas you find on dating sites are ready to get the ball rolling. My best advice would be to stay offline until you visit here and check the place out, or at least wait until your arrival is just a couple months away. We don't like window shoppers any more than you do, so don't be one. Well, I hope that does the trick, Alex, and I'm sure you'll eventually find what you're looking for. The next email is from R, who only says that he currently lives here in the Philippines. R says, Dear P, first let me say that I love your country and your beautiful people. I've been living here for 8 months now, and there's nowhere else I'd rather be. But I have a situation with my girlfriend, and I just don't know how to help her. All the time we've been dating, she's been saying things like, You wouldn't love me if you knew everything about me, and hinting at some dark past. At first, I thought she just didn't feel worthy of me because I've been really good to her, better than anyone else in her life. But sometimes she gets a faraway look in her eyes, and I feel like she's weighed down by something unspeakable. I know that many Filipinos have had to do things they're not proud of just to survive, and I assume it was something like that. But when I tried to explain that I'd never hold it against her, she finally told me what was troubling her. Since a very young age, a male family member had been very inappropriate with her, causing years of anguish and shame all through her childhood. To make matters worse, it appears that other people inside the family were aware of it, but no one ever did anything to stop it. Even all these years later, she still has to interact with this person, and she somehow feels partly to blame. If ever there was a need for professional counseling, it's now. But there doesn't seem to be a therapist within 200 miles of here, and she refuses to talk to anyone even if I could find one. I only want to do what's best for her, but I'm not trying to kick the hornet's nest. I know your culture is very different with regard to family and the concept of shame. So any advice you can give me would really be appreciated. Well, I'm so sorry, my friend, and your girlfriend isn't alone. It's far more common than most people think. I'll tell you what I do about it, but I strongly suggest that you seek professional help. In the Philippines, there's a culture of silence around things like this, even more than in the West. The ties of family are more important than the individual, and sometimes the person making waves by calling attention to it is the one who ends up drowning. That's not to say I'd keep quiet about it, but it'll need to be your girlfriend behind any decision about how to move forward. I would not get involved in family business for a lot of reasons. But there's one thing you could consider doing that might help. I don't know your living situation, but if possible, you might want to take her out of town where she doesn't have to deal with the person who caused the problem, at least while she's sorting things out. And even though they're kind of rare in the Philippines, maybe you can find a town that's got a good therapist, someone she feels safe talking to, that understands the situation here. But again, it's gonna have to be up to her, and you can't force her to talk unless she's ready. The one thing you can do is to constantly remind her that it's not her fault. She's very lucky to have someone like you that actually cares. Because, to be honest, most Filipinos turn a blind eye to stuff like that, as if it never happened. Best of luck to both of you. So, our final email of the day comes from Bobby, who lives in Alaminos, which is also here in the Philippines. Bobby says, P, maybe I'm just paranoid or maybe I'm an idiot. Well, let's hope those aren't the only two choices. But there's something I just can't get out of my head, and it's starting to affect my relationship with my wife and family. Before I go doing anything drastic or accusing anyone, I wanted to see what you thought about it. So, anyway, I've been married for a little over 3 years now, and last September, my wife gave birth to our baby boy. Oh, congratulations! I was overjoyed. He's the son I always wanted. But recently, something happened that ruined everything. During a stupid argument with my wife, she was trying to say things to hurt me, and she made the comment that my son wasn't even mine. That hit me really hard because it just so happens that in the back of my mind, I was already wondering the same thing. My son looks nothing like me. He has no Caucasian features at all. His nose is flat, his eyes are Asian, and his skin is even darker than his mom's. I've been trying to keep those thoughts to myself, and I even felt guilty whenever I had them. But after what my wife said, it's like a genie that won't go back in the bottle. The thing is, I really don't think she could have cheated on me because we're together almost 24/7. Sure, there are little gaps here and there where she runs to the local store for a few minutes to pick something up, but unless she's part jackrabbit, I don't see how it could have happened. It sounds kind of far fetched, but maybe she climbed out of window in the middle of the night? I suppose where there's a will, there's a way, but it really seems unlikely. So here I am, stuck with feelings that are tearing me up inside, and I'm not sure what I should do. I don't want to confront her, but it's not fair to doubt my own son every time I look in his eyes. And what if I found out he's not my son? What then? The thought of blowing up my whole family is more than I can bear. Please talk some sense into me, P. Holy crap, Bobby. What a nasty situation. Well, your email is from just 2 days ago, so let's see if we can figure something out before you drive yourself nuts. Okay, the first thing I want to mention is that in the case of a mixed baby, its looks are a very unreliable way to determine who the parents are. The child often resembles the Filipino parent because we have the dominant genes when it comes to things like eye color and hair color. And even if the child has a darker skin color, it could have come from one of the grandparents. It's pretty much a complete roll of the dice, so let's not focus so much on the looks, okay? Let's talk about infidelity. You say you're one of those couples that does everything together, which is really sweet. I like that. That's the way I want to be too. And you say there's almost no way she could have been unfaithful. Now you're the only one that can tell how true that is. But if she were cheating on you, I think you'd notice it in other ways too. Unexplained texting, whispered conversations, and sudden absences. Since you haven't noticed anything like that, I'd say she's probably not being unfaithful and that the child is yours. But none of what I just said matters one little bit. You've got the doubt monster living in your head, and if you're like me, you gotta know the truth. Someone once asked me, if I only had 6 months to live, would I want to know about it or just enjoy my life and then drop dead one day? I chose to know. I didn't even have to think about it because I'm one of those people that always wants to know the truth, no matter what. So if you just can't let this go, but you want to avoid a nuclear explosion of confronting your wife, there's only one thing to do. And in the Philippines, it ain't gonna be easy. You probably already thought of this, and if you try to pursue the idea, you might have run into the same problem I did. It can be really hard to get a DNA test in this country, but it's the only way to settle it. I checked online, and there really aren't that many testing facilities except in the big cities. You have to go there in person because I don't believe they mail out sample kits, which could make this really hard to do in secret. The other idea is to order a kit online from some place like Amazon. But I already tried that when I was doing a video about my ancestry, and they stopped my sample at the border. And I don't know if it's just because it was during COVID, but I got a message that biological samples can't be mailed outside the Philippines, and my DNA was being destroyed. If that's still the case, I'd contact a domestic lab and ask how you can quietly get this done. There must be a way, and it sounds like it's the only way you're going to be able to put this behind you. But like you mentioned in the email, what if I'm wrong and the child is not yours? Well, in that case, you're going to have to figure out what you'd be prepared to do. Would you have your name taken off the birth certificate? Would you leave your wife? Would you charge her with adultery, which carries a sentence of jail time here? I think all the things I just mentioned would actually be options under Filipino law. And while I'd hate to see you go down that road, you might find yourself feeling like you have no choice. And I'm obviously not a lawyer, so I can't give you any legal advice. But I've arranged to have an attorney on my show next week, and I'm gonna ask him about your situation in particular, Bobby. So stay tuned. Well, that's it for this episode, and I'll be back on Friday with something you won't be expecting. Till then, folks. If you think about it, I'm kind of like your own personal genie. Every week, I fulfill two of your wishes when I bring you magical content about life and culture in the Philippines and explain the differences between East and West. If you appreciate my efforts, all I ask is you give a thumbs up on this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so you can see what I've conjured up next. And if you're really feeling like a generous master, please visit my Patreon page for extra content and exclusive videos and features. And now for that third wish. You have only to ask, and it's my pleasure to make it come true. What did you wish for? Master! I don't think I can do that, and Mrs. Master would not be happy about it.